All right, so in this video, we're going to look at the parts of the Chapter 3 that we covered that will be on the test. Starting with number 5, it says, before the high school basketball team started a new 9-week workout routine, the coach of the team had them all do pull-ups, and he found the following statistics. All right, so we find that the mean number of pull-ups the team was able to do was 17, the median was 15, the range 10, the variance 24, and the standard deviation 4.89. So it says, suppose in Part A, it says, suppose that after the 9-week program is finished, each player was able to do 4 more pull-ups. Adjust the values for the statistical measures that would change. So if we're going to do 4 more pull-ups, that means we're going to add 4 to certain ones. We're going to add 4 to the mean and the median. And so when you add 4 to those, so the others are going to stay the same. Because remember, those are the measure of spread. And if we add 4 to a set of data, it doesn't affect the measures of spread. So the mean would change to be 21. The median would change to be 19. Now, if the mode was also listed here, the mode would also change, but it's not here. But the other ones then, like I said, would stay the same. Now, in Part B here, it's saying now that instead, let's say if instead after the 9-week program is finished, each player is able to do 1.5 times more pull-ups. Okay, so now here's what's going to happen. Everything is going to be multiplied by 1.5, with the exception of the variance. The variance is going to be multiplied by 1.5 squared. But everything else, the original values, get multiplied by 1.5. Okay, so we're going to take 17 times 1.5 and so on. Don't take the 21 that we just did times 1.5, because Part B is as if Part A never happened. So the numbers you should have gotten are 25.5, 22.5, 15, 54, and about 7.3. All right, number 6. Number 6, this is all about composition of functions. And so the way that we do this, we work our way from the inside out. So I'm going to start with finding f of -2 first. Meaning I'm going to put -2 into function f. So we're going to take 3 times -2 squared minus 4. Now make sure that if you're doing this on your calculators that you put the negative inside the parentheses. Because if you wrote this out this way and you're wondering why you got the wrong answer when you have everything written out correctly, it's not because your calculator did anything wrong. It's because you put it in your calculator wrong and didn't put the -2 in parentheses. Otherwise, you could do this easily in your head. -2 squared would be a positive 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 take away 4 would be 8. So that means that this piece here is 8. So now we're going to take 8 and put that inside of function g. Function g is to take 7 times our input, which is 8, plus 5. And 7 times 8 is 56. 56 plus 5 is 61. So your final answer is 61. Let's look at Part B. Part B says, well, wait, what if we put -2 into function g first? Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to put -2 into function g. So remember, function g says it takes 7 times our input and add 5. So again, we could do this easily without a calculator. 7 times -2 is -14. -14 plus 5 would be -9. So that means that this piece here is -9. So now we're going to put -9 inside of function f. Function f, remember, says to take and square input, which is -9, and multiply that times 3, and then we're going to subtract 4. So -9 squared is 81, positive 81. Again, make sure you put this in your calculator correctly. So you put the negative in parentheses. So -9 squared is 81. 81 times 3 is 243. And 243 minus 4 is 239. For that, you might need to use your calculator. But otherwise, you get 239 as your answer for 6b. All right, let's look at 6c. For 6c, we're going to do g of 0. And then we're going to put that answer back into function g. So g of 0 means we take 7 times our input, which is 0, plus 5. Well, obviously, that's just going to be 5. So that means that this is 5. So now we're going to put 5 back into function g. So we would take 7 times 5 plus 5, or 35 plus 5 is 40. And lastly, This one, we're going to take function f and put that inside of function g. So function f is 3x squared minus 4. Okay, that's what function f is. I'm going to put that inside of function g. Function g says it takes 7 times our input and add 5. So our input is that function, 3x squared minus 4. So now I'm just going to simplify this. So I'm going to simplify this by first distributing the 7 through. So 7 times 3 is 21. So we have 21x squared minus 7 times 4, which is 28. And then we bring down the plus 5. And then lastly, we're going to take 21x squared. We can't do anything with that, but negative 28 plus 5 would be negative 23. And that would be your final answer for 6D. All right. So let's end by looking at number 7. So 7A, we're going to find the inverse. Remember, this is a multi-step process. The first step of the process is super easy. We just change this f of x to be y. So y equals 2x minus 8. The second step, also easy. Switch the x and y. So be x equals 2y minus 8. The last step is where all the work is in. We're just going to solve for y. So we want to add 8 to both sides. So we have x plus 8 equals 2y. Now I want to get, again, we want to get the y by itself. So I'm going to divide by 2. So we get y equals x plus 8 divided by 2. The last step is to put this back into function notation, except for we're going to identify this as the inverse. So this will be the inverse of f equals x plus 8 divided by 2. So we're going to do the same process for letter B. Let's start first step. We're going to start with y, changing the g of x to be a y. So it'll be y equals x minus 5 divided by 4. Second step, switch the x and y. So we'd have x equals y minus 5 divided by 4. The next step, this is where all the work comes in. We're going to solve for y. Now to do that, I'm going to multiply both sides by 4. So if I multiply both sides by 4, that gets rid of the fraction on the right. Because if I multiply that second fraction by 4, the two 4's would cancel out. And then I would add 5 to both sides. And we solve for y. But the last step is to put this back into function notation. So if I put this in function notation, whoops, this is function g. So I'm going to say this is the inverse of g equals 4x plus 5. And that's it. So hopefully that helps you understand how to do this stuff that we covered in Chapter 3, from these 4 parts in Chapter 3. And if you know this material, you are ready for the test.